Okay, good morning. I'd like to add a little caveat that I did not come up with the title, You Can Do It All, that was Dylan. So I don't want you to think that I think, oh, I can do it all. That was all Dylan. So he asked me to come today to share my story. So you're gonna have to stick with me a little bit in the beginning, but I'm gonna take you back all the way to when I was 5 years old. So I was born and raised in Mililani. I'm the sixth generation of my family to be here in Hawaii, and my family has an egg farm in Wahiawa, so I grew up in a farming family. But when I was 5 years old in Mililani Waina Elementary School, two big things happened in my life, big things for a 5-year-old. The first thing is a jump rope team came to my school. And I remember looking up at them going, wow, they're so cool. They can do crisscrosses and double unders. And I was a pretty determined young girl back then. I said, Mom, I want to be a jump roper. So luckily there was a jump rope team in Mililani, so I was on a jump rope team. The second thing that happened is my family's television broke. And then our truck broke, and we didn't have enough money to fix both. So what do you think we fixed? The truck, thank you. When I go to the elementary schools, they say, the television. But no, we fixed the truck. And so in the 6 months when they were saving up to be able to buy a TV again, my brother and I were playing outside, we were doing puzzles, we were borrowing books, and so my mom decided, I don't want a TV. So I'm a millennial who grew up my entire childhood without a TV. But because of that, and I have some old jump rope pictures to show you all. This is me jump roping back in the day. But because of that, I ended up doing a lot of activities. I swam, I played water polo, I did volleyball, hula, Tahitian, I played violin, piano, just because I was bored, because I didn't have a TV, so I got to do a whole bunch of things. So when I graduated from Mililani High School, I went to the University of Hawaii. Ironically, the girl who grew up with no TV, I majored in film, probably trying to make up for what I didn't have growing up. And then I walked on to the UH water polo team. And so, I don't know if you can tell in my high heels, but I am not your typical water polo size. I'm the one in the middle. I'm 5'2". Most of my teammates were 6 foot, 6'2", from the Netherlands, New Zealand, from Australia. And in high school, I was the star. I was the top player. And when I went to UH, I don't know if anybody has seen Rudy. Who's seen Rudy? A few people? I would have to watch that before every season because I'd get beat up so much in the pool. In my 4 years of playing at the University of Hawaii, I had about 1.5 minutes playing time total. So I went from being the star to 1.5 minutes. But it was such a good experience for me to learn that I didn't always have to be the star, that I had a role on the team. I kept the team GPA up. I was really good at that. And also in the weight room, if Lauren is lifting this much, you need to be lifting this much. And so it wasn't easy, day in and day out, giving 100% effort when you're not seeing any playing time. But I'm really glad that I did that. And so, again, I majored in film, and I had to do a documentary on something in Hawaii. And people were doing hula or surfing, and my roommate at the time just gave up her Miss West Oahu crown. And I was a water polo player, I'm an athlete. I jokingly told my teacher, I'm gonna do my documentary on the Miss Hawaii program. She goes, I love it, Lauren, do it. But you should enter. So you can get a behind the scenes look. So there was a pageant, Miss Alamoana, 3 weeks later. I entered, I bought my shoes at Goodwill, spray painted them the right color, wore used my prom dress, and the woman says, do you have a talent? I go, I jump rope. And she looked at me like, oh, bless your heart, honey. So I was contestant number 1. I entered. It was kind of like Miss Congeniality. I remember before swimsuit going, I don't want to do this. And I go out and I do it, and they get to the end, they said, our Miss Alamoana is, and they called my name. And I was laughing so hard that in my crowning moment, I should find that photo. My tongue was sticking out because I was like, this is crazy. And so again, right after, I took a photo for my coach. Because I was like, this is hilarious. My coach is going to get a kick out of this. And so, won Miss Alamoana, and then I forgot that when you win that, you then have to go to Miss Hawaii afterwards and compete. So I went to Miss Hawaii, and guess what happened? I lost. But I go, you know what? I made top 10, And I did that without trying. Imagine if I tried. So I went back my second year, and guess what happened? I lost again, but second runner-up this time, right? So I'm, okay, we're getting better. So then, some people thought I was crazy, but third time's a charm, right? So I went back my third year, and? I what? I lost again. I am really, really, really good at losing. But I went back a fourth year, and now I won. Yes. So I was finally blessed to win Miss Hawaii. So again, the idea of never giving up and learning from your failures. And the funny thing is, I ended up, the more you lose in Miss Hawaii, the more scholarship money you get. So I ended up winning on the back end. Ended up paying for the rest of my bachelor's and my master's and my doctorate, but we'll get to that later. But that never giving up, keep going back. And it's not easy to run for Miss Hawaii. It was something completely different than I had ever done before. I didn't even know how to put makeup on. They had to make me like a paint by the number kind of thing. I had a paper with like, eyeshadow number 1 goes here. I didn't know how to do any of that. So learning, but I also had the opportunity to speak at a lot of engagements. I had interview practice twice a week. I mean, a lot of great things that I used later on in life. So I had won Miss Hawaii and was going to Miss America. But before we get there, my favorite part after I won is my whole family came up to give me lays afterwards. And then my brother comes up and gives me a lay, looks me in the eye and says, "Get over yourself." Like, what a typical little brother thing to say. And I remember looking at him being kind of pissed off, going, hey, it took me 4 years to get here. This was a big accomplishment. But the more I thought about that over the years, I realized the get over yourself thing was true. You know, we all think it was a great accomplishment, but I didn't get there alone. You know, there were so many people who came alongside me to get to that point, and I had to recognize that. And I think that is something that has really stuck with me. Actually, in my opening day speech at the legislature this last year, I told all the legislators to get over themselves. I thought it was a great speech to give. But it's important, right? Because what we do is more than just ourselves. We're bringing our families along with us, our friends, our communities, and so that's something that's really important. So at Miss America, out of 51, I was contestant number 1, like the spot of death. You have to go first for everything. And so it was a really great experience. And of course, my talent was jump rope. So I was the first person in 90 years to ever jump rope for my talent. And I remember being there going, you know, there's all the people, they're wonderful at singing. They have the piano. They're amazing. And so I go first. I do my jump rope routine. And at the end, you all have to come out at the very end in your gowns, and they give the award. And my zipper wouldn't come up. And this was a gown that I had sewn because I didn't have enough money to buy all my gowns, so I sewed a few gowns for me at Miss America. And luckily they sewed me up because at the end, when they called the talent winner, I ended up winning talent at Miss America jump roping. I think I have a picture of it. Yep, so this is me jump roping at Miss America. That's the butt bounce, that's my signature move. But this is the only time in my entire pageant history that I've done the Miss Congeniality, like, oh my gosh, thank you, when I won, because I didn't expect it, right? Because there were so many other people that I thought were so much more talented than I was. Oh, that's... Oh, back? Yeah, we need another picture. Okay. The butt bounce. I just had to perform that at Miss Hawaii this year. I can still do the butt bounce. I can't breathe when I'm done jump roping, but I can still do it. And then so I ended up winning talent, and this was the dress that I had sewed that they had to like sew me into. But it was in that moment that I realized, kind of to really create your own path, that you can do something different than somebody else. You don't have to do the typical talent that everybody else has. And so being willing to innovate and step out of the box. And so at the end, I didn't end up winning Miss America. And on that plane flight home, had to really think, why did I do this for the last 4 years of my life? Because it wasn't easy, right? I ate boiled chicken and broccoli for 4 years, pretty much. And Miss Hawaii is a job. I remember one day I was on 3 different islands in a single day doing events. It was harder than any job that I've ever done. And going, why did I do this? And what I realized, what I loved most was serving my community and advocating on issues that I was passionate about. And so I was thinking I was going to go into some sort of nonprofit work when I was done. And one of the senators in my area said, oh, you should run for office. And to me, that was serving my community and advocating on issues that I was passionate about. I'm really glad I was super naive back then. We'll go into that. So I said, okay, I'm going to run for office. And so I finished Miss Hawaii on June 9th, and I started my first campaign on June 10th. I was still cheap back then. I'm not cheap anymore. I'm Matsumoto now. So this was my first campaign, and I was 24 years old. I was a single Republican female in a 70% Democrat district. And if I look back now and I'm looking at the data with everything I know, I would have said, you can't win. There's no shot for you to win that race. And so we went in, and the big thing there was not being afraid to step out. I remember even calling one of my good friends growing up and asking her to help me with something for the campaign. And she said, why are you running for office? You're going to be a disservice to your community. You don't have a law degree. You don't have a political science degree. What are you doing? And I remember I had to really dig deep and go, why am I doing this? I know I feel called to run for office and make a difference in the community that raised me, in the community that my family grew up in. But there's going to be those hard moments when you do step out and it feels like the odds are against you. And so we ran that race, and it was difficult. I actually took 3 months unpaid leave from my job. I walked door to door 6 to 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. I was probably campaigning 14 hours a day, and just didn't stop and went all in, going, this is what I know I want to do. I'm going to commit everything to that. And so we won that first election by 85 votes, 50.4%. And I didn't realize until a few years later that I was the youngest Republican to ever have won an elected office in Hawaii. And when I got there, even though I didn't have that law degree, I didn't have that poli-sci background, at the time when I was in the legislature, I was the only person out of the 76 legislators that had any background in agriculture. So while I didn't have that traditional background, I had something to offer, and I was an important voice to have at that table. And still yet, there's only 3 people in our legislature who still have any sort of ag connection. And so that was something that was really important. I would like to note before we go on, the second election, we won by 73%. So we did much better that next year. But this is contradictory to my last statement, right, of thinking outside of the box in a way. But find a system that works. When I was first running, I didn't know how to run for office. I didn't know anything. And so I found a team that knew what they were doing. And I followed that advice to a T. Dylan and I talk about this all the time. Dylan was somebody that I had reached out to and had helped me a lot through that. And I go, you know what? You know what you're talking about. I don't. I am going to follow your advice on how to run for office. And there was a few others. And I had that inner circle, because when you start to reach out and run for something bigger, there's going to be a lot of people that come around and want to give you advice and want to speak into your life. And so knowing who your inner circle is, your bubble, and those who know what they're talking about is something that was really, really important for me. And it drives me nuts today. I've been in office now it's going on my 12th session. And when we're trying to help other people and they're running for office, you go, here, I have turned my entire campaign into templates. Here you go. Last election, out of like the 50 people that I gave that template to, how many do you think used it? What did I hear? 2. How many do you think won? Well, 1. But again, this is a tried and true method. Why reinvent the wheel, like Dylan was talking about earlier, when there's somebody that has already come out with a great way to do it. Now, of course, you can innovate along the way. Like, we had fun with it. I took half a dozen eggs door to door in a red wagon with my family's logo on it, my logo, and a thing with my ag policies and egg recipes, and I gave half a dozen eggs door to door if you lived in my district. So we innovated a little bit, but the main core of what we did, we stuck to the advice and the templates that have worked before. So find the people who know what they're talking about. And so this next was, after I got into office, I still had those scholarships from Miss America, so I said I'd be foolish if I don't use those scholarships. So I got elected, and then I applied to grad school. And so I went to get my MBA at HPU. The fun thing is when you have a full ride scholarship, you have to be a full-time student. So I was in the legislature and a full-time student at the same time. And I'm sure if anybody has done that before, you know that is not easy to do. And so the next thing is really taking those opportunities that are presented to you, even when they're not convenient, right? It was not easy to go to school at the same time and not just do it, but excel. And so while doing both of those things, was still able to get a 4.0 GPA and was the speaker, the valedictorian of the class at HPU, and was able to then go on for my doctorate while I had my son and was pregnant with my daughter. But I knew I wanted to take advantage of those opportunities so they could open the door for me later. So I'm now a professor at Hawaii Pacific University, teaching leadership and change management, along with being in the legislature, because I took that opportunity when it was given to me of that full ride scholarship. So this is fun. I still jump rope at schools across the state. I do jump rope tours. Again, like I said, now the schools, if they want me to speak, it has to happen before I jump because I can't breathe afterwards. But the thing that has really stuck out to me with this is using the talents that we have to make a difference in your community. So I always say, if I can use something as silly as jump rope, right? That's a recess a game that you played at recess in elementary school. If I can use something as silly as jump rope to make a difference in my community, imagine the talents that you have that you don't think are talents, right? I think we often write them off because they're not the typical talents. But again, jump rope's not very typical. And I still do it. I just jump roped at another school a few weeks ago. And so something that I'm still doing and still applying. And the next thing is, like Dylan mentioned, is I've been in office, we said 11, going on 12 years. I now serve as the minority leader in the House. And I have just became the minority leader in 2022. There have been many times during my career that I've been asked to step up to be the minority leader, had the opportunity, because it's politics, to take the title of minority leader, but decided not to. Because I think it's also really important not just to, again, contradictory, to take the opportunities when they're there, but really to make sure that it's the right timing. So able to be the minority leader. I'm now the national chair of Women in Government, which is a nonpartisan organization across the country of women state legislators, but took those titles when it was the right time. Because knowing when it's the right time is something that's really important. Like for being the minority leader in our state legislature, my caucus, I'll be kind, because it's on video, dysfunctional was probably the kindest word I can come up with. It was dysfunctional. And so all those times that I had the opportunity to be leader, I went, now is not the time, because I need to know where my priorities are. And if I am going to turn this caucus around, I will have to put every single second of my time into this caucus. This is not where I'm going to manage my time well. So I'm not going to step up. It's the title. You are the leader. But I went, that's not what's most important. It's making sure that I'm using my time well and knowing when to step up. Because the right move at the wrong time is still the wrong move. And the reason I stepped up now is because in 2022, there was only one other incumbent, somebody else who had been with me in our caucus. Everybody else, we had 4 new members. So I said, now is the time that I can change the culture within our caucus. I can truly make a difference and move us in the right direction. So now is when I will step up to lead, because this will be a good use of my time and I know I can make a difference here. So that was something that was really, really important to me, making sure I strategically made the right moves at the right time, not just taking a title for title's sake. And then I have to throw in my family. Like Dylan mentioned, I have 2 children. My son Noah is 6 years old. My daughter Noelle, you can tell she's a character. She's 3, she'll be 4 on Christmas Day. And so I had both of my children while in office, which is also fun because we don't get maternity leave. That doesn't exist as if you're a legislator. So with Ellie, I had to go back 2 weeks after I gave birth because session was starting. Luckily with Noah, I timed it right. He was in August, so I got like 6 months off. But having my kids and throwing them into that whole mix of everything that I've mentioned before, and still making sure that my family, I have time for my family. And my husband is a firefighter, so he's gone a third of the time. He's not even home. So making sure, seeing how to balance all of that, we've had to change some things, and I've had to change my priorities and my hobbies. So I can't play beach volleyball and dance salsa like I used to. I now coach both of my kids' soccer teams, so I can spend time with them. I played soccer for 1 season, but I learned if you're coaching 3-year-old soccer, you just have to tell them, turn around, other way, or be super enthusiastic. So being able to spend time with them. My son in January started jujitsu, and they said, practice at home, be able to do that. So I went, I know nothing about jujitsu. How do you win? Of course, that's my first question, how do you win? But I go, I don't know anything about this. So I realized, well, I'm gonna start jujitsu then. Not a sport I ever thought I would do, ever. But now we spend the night at my parents' house on Tuesday nights, and I go to jujitsu at 5 a.m. So then that way I can spend time with my kids and teach them. Our living rooms have jujitsu mats now. We just do jujitsu in our living room. But changing my hobbies and doing something that I never thought I would do so I could spend time with my kids. And then on the flip side, my kids I bring them with me on all of my things. So I like to, my secret dream is to be a Disney princess, or maybe not so secret dream. And so for every single parade for my community, I dress up and we make a float, but my kids get to do it with me. And so they're a part of everything that I do too. And I probably have the only 3-year-old, or one of the only few 3-year-olds that can tell you your 3 branches of government and how many chambers are in the legislature. But they're able to spend time with me. And this was actually, I just stuck this in, this was last night. My son is helping drill the float together, and he was helping paint our float. So I apologize. I will hopefully meet as much of you as I can at lunch, but I have to head back because I have a parade this evening. And so this was, again, being able to spend time with my kids, but really focusing on those things that are important and what we can do together. And so, again, adjusting life to maximize time and making your hobbies fit your priorities. And so that's something that has really helped me in being able to manage my time, because otherwise there's no way I could fit it all in. And then I would be remiss if I didn't give my little plug for how to get involved in the legislature, because I think this is so, so important. So you can go to repmatsumoto.com or to capital.hawaii.gov. On repmatsumoto.com, I have an entire PDF of how to get involved in the legislature, on how to testify. So I sit on the housing committee. I am not an expert in housing. I know little to nothing about real estate. I don't have any background in construction, but I sit on the housing committee. We need people who know their industry very well to testify at the legislature, because I can't tell you how many times we've had bills that come in, and they're important bills, and there are no pieces of testimony. So I need people who are experts in their area to come in and tell me what is a good idea, what is not a good idea, because once I have the data, I'm good at making a decision. But having the people come in who know the day in and day out challenges of what you do, and to make comments on things. And so we just made a really great video on how to testify and how to get involved. So if you want to take out your phone, and I hope I see like half of you take out your phone right now. Take out your phone. Scan for the video to watch later, because they really do a great job of going step by step, and you'll see how easy it is. You don't have to go down to the Capitol anymore. You can just click support or oppose. You can be on testifying on Zoom now. I mean, there is a guy, this is my favorite story. I was at a transportation committee and there was a guy in Molokai. This is when we first did the Zoom testimony, in the bushes, in camo, hunting with his phone, testifying on a bill. And I went, if that's not access to the legislature, I don't know what is. But we need more people to do that. And so my plea to you is please to get involved, because it does make a difference. And so often we just don't hear from anybody from the general public. So with that, thank you so much for having me today. I'm glad I was able to share a little bit of my story with you.